Okay, there we go. So Mills County Commissioners Court of December 14th, 2020 is in session. Present in the courtroom is myself as County Judge, Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Hall. Present via Zoom, Commissioner Guerin and Commissioner Williams. Also present in the courtroom, we have Commissioner-elect Dale Parton and County Clerk Sonia Scott. And I see present by Zoom, we have County Treasurer Trina Busby and Mills County Law Enforcement Center. And I can't, let's see who all's there. It looks like, yeah, Tina Allensworth, and there might be somebody else. I can't tell if anybody's got better eyes. And Jackie Brooks is moderating, and the Goldthwait Eagle is online with their camera off. So there being a quorum, we are in session for a regular meeting, and we will stand for the pledge followed by a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, could you lead us in prayer?
Be glad to. Dear Heavenly Father, be with us this day as we do the business of Mills County. Remind us all for the reason for the season. Guide us and direct us in all our actions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Scott, did we have anyone sign up to speak?
Not last I checked.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, yeah, I recognize that. I just was thought there might be people via the internet. Yeah, and they still have an obligation to sign up. So that being said, we do not have the minutes to review this time, so we will take no action on item 2. You'll see that on our next agenda. We have no audience with individuals. This is the joyous time of the month when we get all the monthly reports. It's listed as consent agenda. And County Attorney Gerald Hale just joined us in person in the courtroom. So the first report is the monthly treasurer's report. And I'll point out on the second page, this will be in the red folder for us to all sign after the meeting. And for the people participating remotely, the commissioners, if y'all would just stop by the office sometime to sign it. Trina can address this in more detail if we want to. The key is checking account balance started the month at $686,945, ended the month. These are a lot of different checking accounts, but in the aggregate, $621,294. Let's break down the left-hand side of the page. The invested funds are on the second page. Started the month at $1,937,000 and change. Basically, we have accrued interest being added. We ended up $1,940,000, and the liabilities are unchanged at $6,772,000, consisting primarily of the jail bonds at $6.4 million. And the remaining payment on the courthouse renovation bonds and the balance of the senior center note. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Okay. The accounts payable were distributed electronically on Friday. I had one
Question on that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's on, Trina, it's on page 7.
Can you hear Commissioner Hall, Karina?
Yes.
And you may be muted.
No, we're good.
Okay, what's your question, Robert?
On page 7, on my accounts payable, I had two
Uh-huh.
payments for $55 to the county agent for that schooling. Should be
Oh,
just-
okay. Yes, it should just be one. We'll have to figure out that.
Okay, I just wondered if it went to one or the other.
It
Business.
probably did. It probably goes
Okay.
to one of the others.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also on page 6, on precinct 2, I think there was a couple of precinct 1 bills on that also. Is that right, Jeff? You see that
Oh, yes, I do, down at the bottom.
on page 6? It says precinct 1.
Yes, I see it. I'll check on that. It may just be the description is wrong, but I'll make sure it's to whoever it goes to.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And there's a postage reimbursement to me. It's small change. It was mailing some of the notices on the tax abatements, and that meant to go into the file and not get turned in. So that's just going to get thrown away.
So you want me to remove that?
Or any other, and then there's a couple of personnel change forms. Are there any other questions or comments on the accounts payable?
Ed?
Judge, can you hear Trina?
I did not hear Tarina.
She's wanting to know if you want to remove that reimbursement to yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
I've got one question on accounts payable, Judge, to the Sheriff's Department. That's trail cam for $400 something, $479.
Yes,
What do we need that expensive a camera for?
that's a question you'd have to ask the sheriff.
Okay. Thank you, Tina.
Is he in today?
Not yet.
All I know is off of that, I'd sure like to buy some of those bullets because you can't find them anywhere else.
We ordered them 2 months ago.
Oh, I should have ordered mine 2 months ago.
Any other questions on accounts payable?
I have none.
I don't have any.
Okay. So the next monthly report, we have Mill Central Appraisal District. This is the collection report. There's a couple of pages here. One of them shows the collections for the 2019. So that's basically the taxes that were due for the last year. And then the page behind it has 2020 at the top. That's the current year taxes, which people are already starting to pay, although the due date is January 31st. So that's the difference to the two pages. The important thing I want to point out on the page with it, well, it's probably on both of them, but the page with the 2019 as the top line, we are 91.8% collected for that year. And the vast majority of the difference is on the top line. You'll see uncollected of 319,000 and interest and attorney's fees and stuff. That is primarily the Encore dispute. There is a hearing on that at 3:30 this afternoon that I'm planning to listen to, and I don't know that it's the final resolution or just a hearing on something, but I will include whatever it is in my daily update today, so keep everybody up to date on that. That's the most important thing I see on this report. The next item on the consent agenda is the extension agent's report. You can see the first page is the basically mileage on various projects during the month of November, followed by a page with December plans and a list of contacts. The Sheriff's Office report calls for service 298, with 169 of them being for the Sheriff's Department, 76 for EMS, and the others were scattered purposes. Where there were 4 arrests during the month of November by the Sheriff's Department, 8 new jail bookings. The difference is 5 people being booked either by DPS or coming in from San Saba. You can see at the bottom the out-of-county jail housing bill for the month of November, $47.50, and that relates to 4 inmates from San Saba County. The Justice of the Peace report, it's the usual, it's a 4-page state form. The way I look at it is, if you look at line 2, new cases filed, that's the new volume, and there's of course columns for different types of cases, but 49 traffic cases and 14 non-traffic cases. You down on line 10, you see cases disposed, 39 traffic and 9 non-traffic. And then there's numbers of the cases left at the end of the month. Next page is civil cases, and you see on line 2, the new cases filed, a combination of debt and small claims. And then active cases, there's dispositions in line 13, and active cases at the end of the month on line 15A. And then on the last page, you see some of the jail activity up at the top, magistrations, total of, trouble reading this, I think it's 9 during the month, some of which, 3 of which asked for county paid counsel. Some number of inquests, which was 0. And then the fees at the bottom, total fees of $15,353, with $95.85 being kept by the county and the balance to the state. The receipts in the judge's office was really 1 septic permit for $310. Be interesting at the end of the year. I'll run a number in the January using the December report, showing how many septic permits we issued this year versus last year, because it feels like we've really seen an uptick. And let's see, I may have got it somewhere else in my file. The EMS report, find it. What report I'm getting, I've got the statistics in your package, but EMS is proud that 92% of all the calls in the county were answered in under 11 minutes. So the standard, the average standard in the contract is 20 minutes. Now they had 3 that did go over 20 minutes, and 2 of them are in an area they seem to always have trouble with. It's just due to distance way out 572 to the west. 574, okay. And the other one was far southeast part of the county off, I think it's southwest part of the county. Anyway, it's off 190 near Lomita. So those sort of out of the way places, those 3 calls ran past the 20 minutes. The city of Goldthwaite calls, which are tracked separately, Most of them were answered in 5.5 minutes. They had 59 calls in the city. 5 of the calls had extended times because they were answered by standby units, where one unit was in service, and then the unit either came from the River Bridge from San Saba or from the Hamilton County line. The problems they're having that I just noticed myself, we had a lot of calls to the nursing homes, transports to the hospital, and every time there's a COVID transport, the ambulance is out of service for an hour after the job's done for disinfecting. So it's really created a slowdown in having available ambulances. And then we had an ambulance that had a minor wreck last week. So that's in December. It was responding to a vehicle accident over behind pecans.com. And as it was going back to the station, got clipped by one of our volunteer firemen. It looks like it's just bumper and brush car damage, but it still takes it out of service for a little bit. So that's the EMS report. And then the last one is the Veteran Service Officer. You can see a long list of activities, but the key is it's 16 veterans. And then there's another page of, I guess it's got more veterans. So the total is 18. And included in there is some training and some computer problems. And but our VSO is continuing to be active and doing looks like very productive work for the county's veterans. Any questions on the consent agenda?
Also like to make note, the veterans poured the ramp behind the community center. Yes.
Yeah, the county's paid for the material, but Craig Wright and volunteers from the American Legion did the labor, and it's nice to see the community work together that way, because we've certainly through our Veteran Service Officer done a lot for the veterans community, and we really appreciate them doing that.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with those corrections on the payables.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda with corrections to accounts payable as discussed. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is number 5, line item budget amendments in precinct 2. Ms. Busby, can you speak to that, or is it Commissioner Guerin?
I can, or he can.
You're muted,
He's wanting to
Teresa.
make,
No, she's good.
She's good.
Not
Okay.
good to us.
We're not hearing her.
Okay, Jed.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Commissioner Williams and Guerin come through loud and clear.
Barry Cheney is retiring the 1st of February. And I had a line item transfer in to move some money from materials to labor, where hopefully I can go ahead and hire somebody around the 1st of the year, where he'll be in training for a little while with Barry before Barry retires on me. And that's the reason for the line item transfer.
How much money in the aggregate are we transferring around?
Somewhere around 3,100, I think.
Do you have someone selected?
I'm still interviewing. I've got several really good prospects.
So at this point, it may or may not happen.
Hopefully it'll happen, Judge. I've got, one of the boys I feel confident we'll go ahead and go to work. The other boy, I've got to get some questions answered for him. And hopefully I'll get that done today, and I should know the next couple of days.
So the $3,100 would fund
A month's
the
salary.
overlap for the whole month of December or 3 weeks or what?
Starting the 1st of January.
Okay. When is your current employee retiring?
1st of February.
Could you repeat that?
He's leaving the 1st of February.
Okay, so we're talking about a month, the January overlap.
Yes, sir. Basically the month of January. And we're kind of behind. Barry's been off for 7 weeks with knee replacement surgery. He just got back here a few weeks ago, and now he's going to retire. And well, I've been short-handed for quite a while now.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the line item budget amendment for precinct 2 to employ an extra person for 30 days.
What's that gonna do to our insurance and everything on that?
Could everybody hear Commissioner Hall question? He was
Yeah.
asking about the impact on insurance and other, I guess, payroll expense related things. I can answer part of it since we seem to be having sound problems with Tarina. I believe, although the retirement system starts right away, so that payment kicks in, our medical coverage does not start for a period of 60 or 90 days following up employment.
Yeah.
So there's no doubling up there. Payroll taxes would be due, FICA.
That's not in the budget.
Yeah, but you're going to take it out of the salaries.
It would all be in the $3,100 that they're proposing to transfer out of materials and what was it, equipment repair?
This materials. Tarina will have the exact figure. That's off the top of my head.
Okay, Jed, we didn't get the sound on that.
I said Tarina will have the exact figure. I
No
don't
sound.
have it.
Jackie, everybody's not muted, are they?
No, sir, they're not.
Okay.
The budget amendment should show a line for each one of those, FICA, TCDRS, that should be on that budget amendment.
I don't have that budget amendment.
Yeah, I don't
Either.
either. I guess it didn't get in the packages, but so what Trina the treasurer is saying is that the budget amendment transfers from the let's call them the source categories include the coverage of all the payroll costs.
Judge Smith, it is in the red folder.
Look in the red folder, Mike.
Just the amendment itself, what it is. That's just showing the line.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got the sheet in front of me. It shows that we're transferring $3,120 from a precinct 2 account, and it's got a 12-400-324. So I'm assuming that's materials. And it goes in 3 different buckets, 2560 to salaries, $200 to FICA, and $360 to TCRS. So this transfer from the materials would cover all of the components of the extra cost. Are there any other questions?
I have none.
Okay, well, so we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of the line item transfers in precinct 2?
I didn't hear the second.
Who seconded it?
Okay, I thought Commissioner Guerin did, but
I will. Go ahead.
okay. So Commissioner Guerin seconded. So all in favor of the 3,100 and I think it was 3,120 of line item transfers. Was that right?
Correct.
Okay.
3120.
In precinct 2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Oak Ridge subdivision discussion. This came up a week or so ago, and I think I'm doing a screen share because I want to show you something. I received a inquiry from the 911 address analyst at Sitcog trying to assign a 911 address to a property in Mills County where they didn't have any indication of the road it was on. What I'm scrolling down is the website for something called, I think it's called Oak Ridge Ranches. Let me back it up. And I'm trying to get to the map.
My name is Jake Hersman, and I represent Oak Ridge Ranches, just north of Mullen, Texas, and Woolwich, Texas.
Uh-oh.
Oak Ridge Ranches is located 1.4 hours from Austin, Texas, and 2.5 hours from the next one. Oak Ridge Ranches consists of
I did not mean to start whatever YouTube I've started. Let me see if I can stop it.
Ranch L consists of a portion of Pompey Creek, which serves as a conduit.
Okay, we're going to try that again. What's important is this map, if I can get to it. I've tried printing it, it just didn't come across well. Commissioner Guerin or Williams, are y'all seeing this?
No, I have the map that's in the packet. I'm not seeing your screen share, but that's fine.
Well, okay. Well, it's not working. So I printed one map that doesn't really show it too well. I'll pass it down to Commissioner Wright. Okay, you've got one. Okay. The problem is there's 2 private roads in this subdivision that enter. One of them comes off, I think 189 and 199.
One on 4/10 of a mile, and the other 7/10.
And they are the access to a couple of the lots, I'm calling them lots, the ranches or ranchettes, but that's their access. So one or more of those ranchette owners has properly applied to get the 911 address, which then they try and when they assign it, have to figure out the name of the road it's on, and had no record on the road. So they called the county about it, couldn't find a plat. And I just wanted to, I think the next thing we're going to try is, Jackie, if you can run the PowerPoint. I went back to the county subdivision ordinance and just want to point to a couple of things. Now, the county subdivision ordinance is older than dirt. It's January of 85, I believe. Okay, and it's also legal size and obviously written by lawyers, so I'm trying to interpret it for you. So here is just a quick overview of the existing subdivision ordinance. Don't take this as the word of God. If you need to get into a discussion with somebody, refer back to the ordinance. But this is for our information. If you'd change pages, please. Okay, this thing, here's who approved it. If you want to go back to the sources, Wallace Johnson, Marvin Lindsay, Lewis Watson, Leroy Swartz, and Holly Jernigan. And it says right on its face that violation of it is a misdemeanor, and there's fines and jail time for each violation. So next page. This is one of the key parts. It's who must comply with the subdivision ordinance. Dale, would you try flipping off the lights in the back and see if that helps any? First of all, if you got to be outside of the incorporated cities, which almost everything is. And then it talks about dividing a piece of land into 2 or more properties. And, you know, there's lots of subcomponents in the state code as to what is or isn't a subdivision. But the third bullet is the key. It's if you build streets or other things that are public use for people leasing the property, people buying the property, or owners of any of the tracts, then it falls under the subdivision ordinance. Let's go on to the next track. So if somebody subdivides a ranch and every piece opens on a county road, this ordinance as it's written doesn't apply. But you throw a private road into it, you're right in the middle of this ordinance. Okay, so what do? Here's the steps that are required in the ordinance. There's a preliminary plat submitted listing a whole bunch of stuff. It goes to the commissioner's court. The commissioner's court doesn't act on the preliminary plat, and there's a timeline. It's deemed approved. Approval of a preliminary plat isn't approval of the subdivision. It's just an authorization to proceed with the preparation of the final plat. And then it says no grading of streets or construction is permitted before the final plat is tentatively approved. So let's go on to the next page. The final plat is done by a surveyor. There's a list of things that it's got to reflect, including street names and adjacent property owners, has to identify utility easements, roads, floodplains, drainage. If there's not going to be a public sewer system, there have to be perk tests on a percentage of the lots, and those test locations marked on the plat. And the plat must be accompanied by a report from an engineer recommending what type of septic system should be installed, and showing areas that are not suitable for a septic system. And then there has to have limitations on septic systems versus the drainage ways on the plat, the property lines on the plat, and floodplains. So go on. Next, there we go. More on the final plat. The commissioner's court can hire a professional to review the plat. The ordinance says it's a little bit like our wind farm rules and guidelines, that the cost of that review is passed back to the developer. He's got to provide a tax certificate showing taxes are current, and that the commissioner court action then is basically a preliminary approval. It's an intent to approve. And because final approval is dependent upon the completion of the streets, culverts, drainage, etc., and their inspection by a commissioner and an engineer at the developer's expense. Next one, Jackie. Then there's some other requirements in there that are kind of interesting. It says no plats can be approved unless there are provisions made for a site for garbage disposal. And all streets have to be named and marked, and there's letter sizes. There's setback requirements for the lot lines from county roads. There's provisions for drainage easements. Can't run utility lines under the street except to cross it. Excuse me. And there's minimum street widths. And prior to beginning any construction, they have to contact the commissioner and the county or a county appointed engineer. Next one. And the ordinance includes county road standards. So this is what was written in 85, anticipated minor streets and major streets, and then minimum right-of-ways, grades, center line versus edge base thickness. This may mean something to you guys. Some of it's past me. Next slide. And here, then there's more road technical stuff. The subgrade's supposed to be compacted and measured and inspected by the commissioner prior to the base. There's stuff about seeps, what the base is supposed to be made of, how the drainage is calculated, and permanent drainage structures. And from reading it, this is things like tin horns and box culverts are required at all road crossings, intersections, driveways, anything that comes across a drainage ditch. And then a construction bond is required in favor of the county in an amount that if the developer doesn't do these improvements, the county can get somebody else to do it and not be at any cost. Next slide. This is just what I took away from all this. Real high level. If any tract lacks an access on a direct entrance from a county road, that it's likely it has to comply with this ordinance as it now is written. Non-compliance is defined as a criminal offense. Commissioners can't individually waive compliance. This is commissioner's court approval. Just a general statement, because I know this is old, but just the fact that somebody doesn't know about it law isn't a defense for breaking it. The commissioner's court, if somebody comes in with a plat and it deviates from the requirements, we can create exceptions to it, but we can't just waive the ordinance. The ordinance is in place until we replace it. And what I believe probably needs to happen is to identify what non-compliant subdivisions may be out there, and probably each commissioner knows that. And then we try and address this either individually or in a revised ordinance. Is there another slide? That may be the end of it. Okay, so that's the background on where we are. I'm going to be talking to Gerald Hale on sort of what we do on this existing one with regard to getting at 911 addresses. But I think this is a good example of the problems that we have. And it's a really timely thing, given that we've got an attorney, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, that was recommended by TAC that will be talking to the court at our next meeting in December about what his firm could propose to do to help the county revise its ordinances. And I'd like to invite Mr. Hale, who's got a long history with this stuff, to comment on anything you would like to say.
Just get with that mic right there, Gerald. Yeah.
Well, I understand the problem. The current ordinance that we have has virtually been ignored for over 30 years. So I think it's difficult to enforce it at this point in time. There are state statutes that cannot be ignored. There's two statutes that provide criminal penalties for someone who subdivides there, and I've talked to the court about this before. There are particular exemptions that says the county may not require platting when, and there's 8 or 9 of those And nearly all of them have to do with the fact that the subdivision does not require roads. I own 200 acres out here on the county road, and I don't want to sell 10 acres to my neighbor that's on the road. Technically, that's a subdivision because I'm dividing my 200 acre tract into 2 tracts. But it's exempt from platting because the tract that I'm selling joins a road, and there's no requirement of roads to be laid out in that subdivision. And there's various other exemptions. If it's a family division, various things. If all the tracts are over 10 acres, it's an exemption. But all of those exemptions say, and there's no requirement of roads to be laid out in the subdivision. Anytime you have a requirement for roads to be laid out in the subdivision, there's 2 statutes that apply. One of them is in the property code that says a deed cannot be, a deed that is recorded that refers to an unrecorded, unplatted subdivision is a misdemeanor. It's subject to misdemeanor prosecution. There's another statute in the local government code, the one you're referring to in our rules, that say anybody who subdivides property in violation of the county ordinance is subject to a misdemeanor. So the 2 separate criminal acts dealing with subdivision. The subdivision statute also says a subdivider who divides land in violation of what we're talking about here has committed fraud in relation to selling real estate. If I were a subdivider, I don't think I would want it to be statutorily determined that I've committed fraud in the sale of real estate when I'm subdividing property that doesn't comply with subdivision statutes. But anyway, be that as it may, there is also misdemeanors. Most misdemeanors carry a 2-year statute of limitations. So if the act that we're talking about, subdivision act that we're talking about, occurred more than 2 years ago, then it's subject to limitations and can't be prosecuted. If we've got a fresh one, then I think it could be. And I have not looked at any of this stuff in this subdivision. The judge and I had just a brief conversation about it. I understand that it exists, but I haven't looked at the subdivision survey plats or any of that. But if it is a recent subdivision that was not the recording statute that's in the property code that says that a deed recorded that refers to an unrecorded plat is a criminal offense, a misdemeanor, that doesn't have anything to do with the county regulations. That can be prosecuted whether the county has passed regulations or not. And so what I would, as far as, if it's been within 2 years, I'm assuming that it has been. Is it in yours, Robin?
Yeah.
Precinct?
Yep.
How
Fresh?
recent?
Is it a new?
It started over a year ago.
Okay. Well, then maybe that's something we need to look at and see if there's a possible criminal violation. And I mean, I'll be glad to do that. As y'all know, my office does not have investigators. I rely on the sheriff's office and game warden and various agencies to investigate possible crimes and then bring them to my office. I understand that this is not the usual type of crime that you would expect the sheriff's office to investigate. But somewhere or another, we need to get the information together. Apparently, you got a survey plat. I mean, I don't know. I need a name, and of course, if you've got an entity as opposed to a person, that opens up a whole new can of worms.
I was going to ask, how does a criminal statute apply to an entity?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That opens up a whole new can of worms on criminal prosecution, where you've got a corporation or LLC or something like that instead of a person. But that's is something else we'd have to look at. But what I would anticipate maybe as far as a game plan is concerned is let's get together and look at what we've got, and if there are some deeds recorded in the courthouse that may be in violation of this statute in the property code. Maybe a letter from the county attorney to the subdivider advising the subdivider that they are the subject of a criminal investigation and advising them to preserve all the records and documents in connection with that investigation. Maybe that might wake somebody up. I guess that would be a possible game plan. I agree with everybody. I think everybody's in agreement. These 1985 regulations need to be cleaned up. For one thing, they don't address the exemptions. And I think they have some requirements in there that the county may not really want to require. Of course, what the tendency is, if you have things in there that you know we're not going to be compliant with, first time somebody brings you a plat and says, well, I don't have this, this, and this, and this. You say, well, we don't really need that. Then, why do you have any regulations if you don't need it? There's also a part of this subdivision statute says the county cannot require a subdivider to build roads better than what the county requires generally for county roads. So you can't put burdens on the subdivider to build better roads than what you build yourselves. And I know the county has passed a resolution saying all county roads class 3 roads. So you may have a subdivider come to you and say, well, you can't require anything better than a class 3 road because that's what you legislated for yourself throughout the county. So that's something you need to look at too. But anyway, that's down the road. I think we need to look, and when we have a new subdivision like this that pops up, that's the time I think we need to try to do something about it, to try to wake the subdivider up and say, look, you've got some problems here. We need to try to do something about it because the more time passes, the less tools that you have to do anything about it.
What kind of justifies a subdivision, Joe, as far as acre wise? Is there any such thing? Because these are
40 to
These are
70.
40 to 100 and something acres.
It's that interior road that gets it. Lack of access.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I wondered that because, 100 acres is not to me, a subdivision, like say 10 acres or less.
Well, the statute says if you divide a tract into 2 or more tracts, that's a subdivision. There are no acreage limitations.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, obviously, you don't want that to apply to anybody. If I want to leave you 5 acres off the corner of my property, build a house on, I shouldn't have to go to the commissioner's court and ask you if it's okay for me to do that.
Right.
You start getting into invading on people's property rights to do with the property what they want to. That's why those exemptions are built in. And really, the exemptions are common sense exemptions, in my opinion. They're generally not something that you would consider a subdivision. Anyway, when we can say, well, it's a subdivision, we think, well, there's somebody who's dividing this piece of property into a bunch of lots, and we're going to sell off lots and we're going to build houses. Well, that's what we think about it, but technically that's not the definition of a subdivision. Subdivision is you divide one tract into 2 or more tracts, and that's a subdivision. So I think you need to look at the exemptions in the regulations and say, well, if you're doing this, then we're not going to require a subdivision plat be recorded. And let me give you a little bit of real estate law so everybody's understanding what we're talking about. Generally, when you subdivide a piece of property and you prepare a subdivision plat, and that plat is recorded with the county clerk, that plat will have a name, the Eagle subdivision, which is a new one we got out here. That subdivision will be laid out in lots and or blocks. It'll say lot 1, block 3 of Eagle subdivision. Well, when you prepare a deed, that's all you have to say. Lot 2, block 3, Eagle subdivision. And that conveys title to that property. And if people want to see where the corners are, what the dimensions are, they go to the clerk's office and they look at the plat. Well, what people can do, they can lay out a subdivision and they don't use lot and block numbers. And instead they do what's called a meets and bounds restriction, where they say, beginning at the southwest corner of my property, and then I go north with my boundary line 300 feet to a pin, and then I go west 100 feet to a pin, and then I go south 100 feet to a pin, and then I go back to the point of beginning. And that's the lot that I'm conveying. And you don't have to have a plat to determine where that property is. You can, a surveyor can determine it on the ground, so you don't have to have a plat. And so subdividers get around the subdivision plat requirement by saying, well, I'm selling this on meets and bounds. I'm not selling it by block and block. And so that's why the statute says if you subdivide a piece of property into 2 or more tracts, technically that's a subdivision, whether you call it a block or not. Because we're not going to let you get away with it just because you use what's called a meets and bounds restriction. And I might also add, there's several requirements in the subdivision regulation having to do with the type of plat and what's supposed to be on the plat, which I think that's good. The surveyors are bound by surveyors protocols and regulations themselves. And all of those things that we're talking about, the county requires to be on the plat. Those are general land office requirements for the Texas Board of Surveyors that say they're supposed to be on there. And a surveyor can get in trouble with his board if he prepares a plat that doesn't have that on there. So most of those requirements are bread and butter. And it's maybe something you and I don't really understand. The surveyors understand. They know what you're talking about when you say that. So I don't think those parts of the requirements are big issues. But if you have somebody out here cutting up a piece of property in multiple tracts, building roads through them, then yeah, I think that's something that you need to, there needs to be a plat prepared, needs to be submitted to the Commission's Court, the Commission's Court needs to adopt it, and needs to be followed with the county clerk. And I think that's something we need to try to enforce.
Yeah, and besides the law side of it, there's a pressing public safety issue. I mean, it goes back to this 911 address. Somebody's out there and they call in a fire or an ambulance. And
they don't know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's an issue with the tax office too. Because when you set up a piece of property, you use these meets and bounds restrictions. The tax office looks at, well, what the thunder is this? Figure out where it is. How do they put it on their map? And so they really need subdivision plats to be able to keep up the property and all the business.
Question, is this the, Robert, maybe you can answer this. Is this the Craig Smith family land or is this a different one?
No, this is Craig Smith's.
Okay. They were talking about this division at the appraisal board meeting this last week.
Yeah, like I said, they have the same issues that we do. It's a problem.
what was the issue at the appraisal board, if you could share it?
Well, it was just that most of them were going wildlife exemption. They were not doing ag exemption. Now, this land is currently ag, so it was available for them to go into that. And the question was, and that arose on what we've talked about before on wildlife exemptions. Also, Cody's like, well, we don't know, you know, about the residents or anything like that on them because they can't get to a couple of those in the middle without the airplane now or the drone. But with the public road that they're putting in, they can get to them.
Well, like I say, this was for discussion. I wanted everybody to sort of understand. I mean, we have a specific issue to deal with on the 911, and the county attorney and I will work on that, and you know, the history on this subdivision. The bigger picture is getting the court up to speed on the underlying rules and putting all this fresh in people's head to talk when we get the lawyer in the 2 weeks about what he can and can't do for us. Because to everybody's point, a January 1985 ordinance that has been mostly ignored or forgotten needs to get addressed or changed.
I don't recall participating in that when it passed, but if you'll look at that ordinance, everywhere in there where it refers to Mills County, it appears that somebody whited out another county and typed in Mills. So that came from another county.
I went back in my files, I heard the precinct barn, and I found where it's Brown County and Mills County together, what this is.
Oh, really? So that's an old Brown County ordinance.
Yep. Brown County's revised theirs 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
More or less.
Those are not Brown County regulations anymore.
Yeah, that's what I found in my files.
Hey, let me clarify one thing, Robert. That's at the top of the map. That's County Road 199. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
They've
and the
got a
one at the
road built
bottom.
down through it. They got a little road built down through it that's 4/10 of a mile long.
Okay,
And on 189, it's a 7/10 of a mile long.
and that's the one down at the bottom that has the dog leg in
Yes.
it, right?
Yes. Yes.
So this property is bordered by County Road 190,
9
199,
and 189.
189,
Yep.
how about 185?
No. It's bordered by 2 county roads. And the one there on the left is all one landowner. And he is very irate.
190,
The one on 189 and 199 up there on the left, on the right hand side, he is very irate.
About what?
Them cutting that up. Not. But, well, he says the county should have been aware of it. This Jeff come to me. I did not know we even had a plat or nothing. Looks like to me the real estate people should be aware as much as the county commissioner should be aware. I don't know.
well, evidently this all started out on 183 because John Mann put this, or one of the commissioners, or Marvin Lindsay put this in the file out there, and I went through one of the files. That's when I found it. And I got to look at it all because of what I have to do with.
Yep.
Okay, well, county attorney and I will work on the 911 issue and background to see what sort of letter we write and when. And other than that, it's just, I think, get knowledge and, making notes for the December 28th meeting when we have, I'm drawing a blank. Jed, do you remember the guy's name?
Chuck Kimbrough.
Chuck Kimbrough.
Kimbrough.
He's with Bicker staff in Austin, and it was a TAC recommendation on, and from talking to him on the phone, has worked with a lot of rural counties on subdivision and other ordinances.
But I think it's fixed to be an issue here. I know Thomas Earl Winter's country, it's all been broke up so far. Inman down here on Fort Will, Bulls Creek, it's already been, but it's gone.
There's more than you really realize.
Yes. Yeah.
Several lots, different plots that have been cut up around the Zephyr area, especially off of 193 and 194. They've been cut up, guys. I mean, it's happening all over. But they're mainly cut off of county roads. They're not building roads.
That's why they do.
That's a new deal. This is a one they've cut roads into it, put roads into it. It's a different deal. So,
Mr. Park, there's one going in near you. I've heard. Are there roads involved in that? Okay.
I have no clue. They contacted me. This guy
Is it the same developer?
No.
Okay.
No, it's totally different developer. But his road, the way I understand it's going to be in Hamilton County.
The whole road.
Now, I don't know where the line actually, I know where the county line is on the dirt roads, but I don't know where it goes up through the middle of that pasture. And who can determine that? Where do we determine that? So, but I understand that his road is going into Hamilton County. It's not starting off of Mills County, I know for a fact. So whether we have an issue with that or not, I don't know. The way he told me that off of Mills County roads, there'd be entrances off of Mills County.
Mr. Parkin?
This same subdeveloper has done one with Lampkin,
Yeah.
and a guy that's got land that joined that said they're basically sea containers sitting on these lots. And I was gonna go to Hamilton County Courthouse and look, and it said they're by no means following the county's ordinances. Supposedly down there, they have like a year to 18 months to put a structure up.
That's what I understand this one is up here, but now I don't know that.
But what they're using for structures are these sea containers.
So,
But a lot of people, again, like the one next to us, a lot of people are hollering, well, they're not gonna buy it. Yeah, they are. They'll buy it without even seeing it. They'll look at it on Google Earth or whatever and say, wow, this is 10 acres out in the country. They're living in Dallas. 10 acres seems like a huge place. You know, so yeah, you're right. It is happening and it's going out.
there's some land just south of Mullen has cut up. It's off of county roads. But then you got all of Thurman Johnson's, what they call, I don't know what they call it, down on 517. It has cut up in about 6 different lots. But all of them come off of county roads.
But they all access either county road.
Yes.
or highway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the easy litmus test when you look at these ordinances does it have a private road or a highway county road access?
And if it joins a county road or a highway, that you don't have a 911.
That's correct.
You can assign them a 911. And plus the county doesn't have the maintenance of county road issues either, because there's no road to maintain except for existing county road.
Who assigns the private roads, Judge?
I don't have an answer for that. You've done one, haven't you? I mean, aren't there some out there?
Here's a situation that Bill just mentioned. I have one out here, and I don't mind telling you the place. It's Deborah Wilson's. He's got a private road number there because his dad lives in one house and he lives in one house, and want to make sure they had different 911 addresses. So they have a private road going into the gate.
Well, did you assign the number, or
No, sir.
does it fit in the county road scheme?
Well, I don't see it anywhere in the county road.
How many
Judge-
times a day?
Go ahead, Commissioner Williams.
That is assigned by SitCog in the 911. And so they have to apply for it. Now, I don't know how you get a private road in there. I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where this whole thing started. SitCog came to us with, hey, we're showing this on a private road. We don't have a record of it. We got to know what to call it. What does the county want to call it? And,
Had an individual from called your office the other day that contacted me in precinct 1, said we had a county road or a private road, and commissioner from precinct 2 did brush work 30 years ago to help him clear the road off, but it doesn't show anywhere. It's a private road. I told him to check with the city. It wasn't a county road. We had no response.
well, there's a private road, I think, right next to that big entrance lane to the new substation that's being built.
There is a private road through there.
But I don't know, and it's got a number on it.
I don't know what number it is, but I do know it's a private road.
It looks like a county road type number. I mean, okay. Well, these are things to be figured out.
Sure.
Let's move on. Where are we? 7. Consider act recall appointment, blah, 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 reappointment, Board of Mills Central Appraisal District. We've talked about this a little bit before. The county has named 3 people in the past. I think when we appointed people to the Appraisal District Board, it's run in, I believe it's a 2-year term. And the people that we currently have appointed are Jim Runyon, Jason Williams, and then we had appointed J.C. Mason, but it's under something of an agreement. When Goldthwaite annexed Star, there was supposed to be a representative from the Star community. Goldthwaite School District annexed Star School District from that community, but it was to be appointed by the county, was apparently the handshake. So J.C. Mason is in that role. Mason and Williams' terms end in December of this year. Runyon's term, I think we reappointed him last year, ends in December the following year. We're getting some pushback from the appraisal district. I don't think it's fully founded, but saying that the county has to appoint somebody, cannot have multiple appointees from one school district area. So that's just
Judge,
background. Yes, Commissioner Williams.
Judge, what it is, the ordinance that they put in or in their bylaws states that they can only have 2 from Goldthwaite School District, Goldthwaite Consolidated School District. The problem happened, the county didn't know this, well, even the board didn't know it, when we appointed Don Johnson, before J.C. Mason, he was appointed from the Star area. And then we appointed Gary Daniels. Well, Gary Daniels is in Goldthwaite School District. And so all 3 of them are in the Goldthwaite Consolidated School District.
And then when Gary Daniels died and you were appointed, you fill Gary Daniels' remaining term, right?
Correct. And so we still have 3 in Goldthwaite Consolidated School District. And it was brought to the board's attention and to the counties and all the entities in October by Jim Runyon that we were in compliance on this. But we've been in compliance for years and years. The board...
in non-compliance.
Non-compliance. And so the board is going to do a reorganization of the board and all that, but we can't do it till January to take this old ordinance out and correct it. Because when the ordinance was done, that was done when Star School was 100% up and going.
Well, what I'm propose is that we start over with a clean slate, that we recall Jim Runyon and consider reappointing Jason Williams and J.C. Mason, and as the third appointee is a person named Jason Garlick. He has been the chairman of the Appraisal Review Board. He is on the school board for Mullen and lives in Mullen and is an employee of the Federal Government Services Administration. So he's active in the local community through the Mullen School Board. He is a Mullen resident, solves that problem, not Mullen City, but Mullen area, and is knowledgeable of the appraisal district, having served as the Appraisal Review Board chair. And I've personally seen him in action chairing the contested hearing with the Encore matter, where they had, big ticket out of town lawyers, and he held his own and did a proper job. And nothing in that complaint relates to how the Appraisal Review Board conducted itself. So I think he's a real talent to consider, and his location solves this, I don't know what to call it, a jurisdictional location squabble that is currently existing and was been brought up by Jim Runyon.
How long have they served, each one of these 3, Jim, Jason, and JC? Which one served the longest term?
Probably Runyon. I mean,
and then how's it go from there?
It would go JC. I think JC Mason was appointed maybe 2 to 4 years ago, when the prior star rep was doing. Jason, can you give me some background on this? I think it goes into Masonic
I
stuff.
do not know. I do not remember when Don Johnson resigned, but JC took over as his appointment. I'd have to go back in our court records to look at that. I don't remember, but it's Jim, JC, and then myself. That'd be the order of experience. But before that, Gary Daniels had been on there since a long time, since, I don't know, 10 years or longer.
Yeah, the underlying problem with regard to the school district location goes back a long, long time. It's just recently been surfaced. So I'm going to make a motion. I move that we recall Jim Runyon and appoint J.C. Mason, Jason Williams, and Jason Garlick as representatives on the Mills Central Appraisal District Board.
I'll second that, Judge.
How many
Okay.
does the county have? How many places does the county have?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So to go into the discussion, the question from Commissioner Hall is how many places does the county have?
Let
we
me answer
have-
that. So we have 3. And the reason
we appoint 3, but we have 2. The 2 other people we appoint are supposed to represent the county. One of them is supposed to be from the Star community, but we appoint.
And that was Robert. That was on a handshake deal, if you remember, when that would come to the court, that we said we would do that. Goldthwaite the Star community didn't trust Goldthwaite ISD, so that's why they asked us to have that representation. And also at that time, we had the largest. Is it debt? Is that or the large? We were the largest. Yeah, we were the largest debt at that time. Now we're not. So if it was to come back today, Goldthwaite ISD has more debt than we do. So what they would actually get that third person, but right now we get it.
Have you had any other interest, Judge, wanting to serve on the appraisal board?
I had one man that is on the City of Mullen City Council came in and talked about it. That was the only other one I had.
The 2 you visited with, you recommend
I do, based on, I mean, I was disappointed to see him leave the Appraisal Review Board. That is, that's a very critical position and one they have trouble filling, honestly, because it's not real popular. But he is a federal employee, and Appraisal Review Board meets during the day, and he was having to take vacation time to attend Appraisal Review Board meetings, and just was tired of losing his vacation to do Appraisal Review Board meetings. Appraisal District Board meetings meet in the evening, as does the school district. He's willing to continue to serve, not trying to separate himself, but just, can't do it during the day. And of course, it's unpaid. So, I mean, the guy's got the experience, fits in the right geographic slot. And that was the basis for my recommendation. I believe Commissioner Guerin may know him or his family also.
Yep, I've known him for a long time, Judge. He's a really good guy, and he's real earnest about wanting to help. I visited with him a little bit about this appraisal board nomination, and he was all excited about it. He didn't, in fact, on the appraisal review board, he went to them and volunteered to be part of it. not realizing how much time it was going to take away from his job to fulfill that obligation. And now he decided that the board would be easier on him. Like Judge Smith said, he won't have to miss work to take care of that obligation. And I'd highly recommend him.
So to also to add to this, at the board meeting we had on the 8th, we had to table this accepting new board members in the fact that Goldthwaite School Board has not met, and Pretty School Board had not met at that time, along with Mills County. So that was tabled to accept new members, and they usually do it in December. This COVID and us doing the tax abatements and all that just got everything pushed back to December. So they're waiting on this appointments.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Did you abstain? Okay, so that's unanimous. That is approved. What's left? The burn ban I just left on here, misnumbered probably. Does anybody have any thoughts on? Every now and then it rains and I get complaints, but it's awful dry.
Is there any such thing through your office as a burn permit?
No. There is. The only thing the ordinance permit, I mean, there's a couple of exceptions, like fire department training. And if it's a authorized, and I'm probably using the wrong word, burn under the state control burn, yeah, with licensed supervision and insurance and blah blah blah, that can be done, but that's all.
Well, I just had an individual that asked me that question, that he's building a house and it rained, he wanted to get a burn permit. I told him there's no such thing. It was
No.
The burn ban is in place and there's no outside burning. That's how I answered it.
Yeah, and that's.
Judge, I've had 2 phone calls over the weekend wanting to burn, and I told him that it was going to be a discussion this morning. Also, Viva Tex talked to David Schwartz, and his recommendation is to leave it on.
Yeah, I mean, it was wet Saturday morning, and then by last night, the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour and dry again. So
good time burn close to it.
Yeah. So unless there's a motion to do anything different, we'll pass on the burn ban, which leaves it in place. I think it runs through sometime in January, but 90 days from when we enacted it. Okay, commissioners' requests and reports. Commissioner Wright?
We've been busy with road work and we've been busy doing maintenance on our equipment. Also, I have a question, Judge, and it might be in your report about the Senior Citizen Center on violations that we were under.
Yeah, I'm planning on mentioning that, but if you got some answers, go ahead. If you got questions, wait till see if I cover it.
That's the reason I was wanting to do. I know that the court before you came on discussed a lot of these issues, and I know Jason had the lead on the senior building, and maybe together we can talk about that, saying that we're in violation of not having it inspected, because I know for a fact that we did have it inspected, and there's some issues with the building that was corrected, because the court asked me to overlook that during that time. And that's the reason that I understand I get this letter here.
It's copied to you.
Yes, it's to me as a commissioner, and I guess that's the reason I'm on it. But that's the reason I want to respond to you when you bring it up in your report. I don't have anything else to do.
Commissioner Guerin?
We've been busy with road work. Replaced 2 10 horns last week before with Precinct 4's help. And other than that, we're just staying busy.
Commissioner Hall?
We've been trying to blade, we're about through with all the roads in precinct 3 and fixing to move all the equipment back to the yards, and rock shredder will go to Jason's, and hopefully we can have for the last 2 weeks the brush cutter back. He's not using it. That's it.
I'm not using the brush cutter. I mean, it's just been sitting there since we got it fixed. I mean, so we fixed that leak, that cylinder. Rest of my report is last week I had two board meetings with Hill Country Community Action and MCAD on the 8th. They appointed a new ARB board member to take Jason Garlick's place, and y'all will know him. That's Phil Duran is going to fill that role, and Fred Curtis is going to be the alternate. Two really big, good people. They had a third person apply, and he was even just as good. So thank those people for applying. I guess we'll talk about the senior center here in just a second with the judge's report. Been doing a lot of blading. 139, 406, 527, 529, 533, 530, 417, 416, 508. Help precinct 2 put in a couple culverts, couple days, and we're adding road material base on County Road 508 as we speak today. And then I guess, Judge, I want to mention that I think everybody got it. I'm not for sure, but they sent us a retirement letter for Judge Stephen Ellis. I think everybody may have got one of those. I'm not for sure, but sent a flyer from his office stating that there's not going to be a party per se, but if you got any comments or stuff, they would like y'all to send it to them, and they're going to compile a book. I guess kind of memoirs type thing. His daughter is doing that. The other thing is I think the court ought to, I don't know how to do this. I've never done it before, but I think the court ought to get him a gift. He has worked for Mills County since 1970, sometimes in the 70s. He was working as assistant DA when my granddad was still sheriff. So that would have been in the late 70s. Not for sure when he started for sure, but that's a long time to be putting yourself in the justice of Mills County and helping us. Whether you like him or dislike him, that still shows a great deal of dedication for Mills County. I have talked to Curtis Lingle about purchasing maybe a hand revolver called the Judge. If anybody would like to be interested, he did find me one, even though they're hard to find right now. And so I don't know. I'm just going to open that up to the court. May have to be put it on the next agenda for a motion if we want to do that. If we don't, we'll just take up a hand collection. I just feel that he's done a lot for Mills County. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Judge.
Okay.
Before we go any further, Judge, I have a comment.
Yeah, Gerald Hale said he's going to pay for the whole thing. Go ahead,
Okay,
Mr.
that's great.
Hale.
I have been consistent with my objection all along for any governmental entity to make a gift to anybody, whether it's a memorial for a funeral or a retirement gift. I don't think that's a proper expenditure of public funds. Now, if any individual on the court would like to make a retirement gift, I've known Steve Ellis and I started out at about the same time, but I've known him for a long time and love him to death, but I don't feel that that's a proper expenditure of public funds.
Judge, I didn't hear all that.
I'll summarize it. County Attorney Hale said that he does not believe that purchasing gifts for individuals, regardless of the circumstances, is an appropriate use of county funds.
Okay.
That close enough? I don't disagree with you. Let's just say several of us put up the money and do it.
I think that'd be wonderful.
We would like to say, for your service to Mills County. Would that?
I think that'd be wonderful.
We could, yeah, we want to act like it's from, recognizing what he's
Public funds were okay.
from. Okay.
Okay, I got you. I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll contribute as much as you need. Okay. Big thing on my list, Commissioner Wright referred to it. I got surprised last week with a letter from something I'd never heard of called the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. It's telling us about non-compliance on the community center, 30 days from the date of this letter to provide documentation that all violations are corrected, fines of $5,000, I think up to $5,000 per violation per day. And then enclosed was a 2017 letter and a bunch of citations on the same stuff, acting like we've ignored them since 2017. I've shared this with you guys. Commissioner Williams, and he'll speak to it, talk to the builder, remembered working through some of these items. It sounds like Commissioner Wright has similar remembrances. So it sounds like most, hopefully all, but not necessarily all, may have been addressed, but somehow the state was never aware of it. So now the chore is going to be to find what we did back in 2017 and provide the documentation.
So, Judge, Mr. Dwayne Tarpley will be here tomorrow. I don't know exactly what time. He is going to walk through the building and show us the corrections that he's got on his paperwork and where we did. Guy and I actually went through the building, and there's only we can only find really two, but there could be a third one out of all those violations. And one of them is a really easy fix. And that's the wardrobe hooks in the bathrooms. We'll just put 2 new wardrobe hits, and Guy was going to do that this morning, and those will already be done. Not really that hard. I talked to Rob Lindsay, but we're supposed to have signpost on those handicap parking places, vertical signpost on the Parker Street handicaps. So I've actually ordered some posts to go ahead and get those here and the signs to meet that ADA requirement there. But Mr. Tarpley is coming. And like Mike said, you can go in the ladies' bathroom and all that, and you can see where they move the walls and the handhelds, Mike, and everything you were saying earlier. You can see where all that's been corrected.
The strip on the back door also, Jason, we addressed that time when they built that back entrance into that building. It didn't even meet code because the first step has to be ground level, which is not. And what we did to pacify that was that we put an exit sign just for the employees' entrance on that and the service entrance. And that they approved that. The bathrooms on the counters, a wheelchair could not pull up those counters. They tore them out and we worked them out.
Yeah.
The handicap signs that you're talking about, you had them placed at one time on the city street. The inspector, because the incline in the city street would not meet ADA, we had to move those to the parking lot of the senior citizen center. And that's where the ADA signs are placed. And then the handicap ramp going into the side door, we knew that from day one, it was too much incline. That's the reason the sidewalks are built in front of it, where they can load handicap wheelchairs and unload them. And those are the only ones I remember, Jason, on the issue, all of it.
Do you have any files that might show how any of this might have got reported to the state?
That's through the judge's office. All I know is I met with Mr. Tarpley, and he's the contractor. He was the the superintendent of the job. We met with him and also inspector. And Mr. Parker should have all the notes on this. Did you talk with them, Jason?
Yeah, well, I've got with Mr. Tarpley. He's coming tomorrow, but it's the homeowner's job to file all of this, not the contractors. And so
I mentioned, I said it should come with the judge's office. I didn't file any. I mean,
the judge's office did not file.
The state doesn't think anything got filed. So now
obviously it didn't get filed.
Well, it doesn't mean they didn't. They could have lost it, but still, yeah.
But I know these issues were addressed, and it's something. My recollection of it was filed with the inspector because he had to come back and inspect it. As far as my knowledge, I remember.
Well, nobody has that where he come back. Nobody has that where he did a reevaluation of everything.
That's what I'm saying. He should have the paperwork because we have written all the issues down with him on the walkthrough to start with, and then after the walkthrough, after it's completed. And also done that issue too, Jason, if you'll remember with the contractor, the hot water issue. That, they kept telling they could get the hot water into the kitchen and it's too hot in the bathroom, and found out later through the contractor that they had the wrong hot water heater hooked up. So they reversed it and everything worked out fine now. Because you kept trying to turn up the thermostat in the kitchen to get them more hot water. Anyway, that's all I had.
Okay.
There's some records in the middle office possibly. I texted Jackie. She's going to look there to see if we can look through because there was a licensing.
Okay.
So we need to look there to see if we can find any documentation.
I'll do that. So we will turn the office upside down and meet with the contractor tomorrow and let everybody know. But it sounds like most of the substantive issues have been fixed, and the ones that haven't maybe can be quickly. So that's all I had. It is, we've completed our agenda. It's 10:30. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hall. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.